Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a very long time since I've vlogged. I'm in the middle of exams right now, and not in the middle, like in the middle of prepping for exams, which is a tedious, heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching process. But I have a minute to sit and talk to you guys about something very exciting, and as you can tell, the title of the video, which is getting my first publication. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about the process and how I got it done, but mostly I just want to appreciate this moment and be thankful and to just keep this memory forever. And I know it sounds like kind of cringe, but like I don't want the novelty to wear off of like my first publication as lead author. So I'm really excited about this accomplishment. I had dreamt about it and I had thought about it. I'm like, okay, since like first year, I'm just like, how do I get published? How do I get research? How do I do this? So thankfully I had so many great opportunities with my professors. So many of them have helped me get to this point, so I wouldn't have been able to have done this without them and their mentorship and guidance and everything. So I'm really thankful to them, and to my sister Isra. So she is also an author on this paper. The paper is in the description box in the link below, so be sure to read it and check it out. So yeah, so if you guys have any questions about research in general, I'd be happy to answer them. So you can put them in the description, in the comments below, or on my Instagram. You can send me a message there, and that will also be in the link below. So let's talk about it. And basically, like, yeah, this was like really exciting for me. Like I don't know, man, I'm just like really giddy over the idea and that I got this done. So let me take a breath. I have a lot of anxiety and imposter syndrome and it kind of went through the entire process of writing the manuscript and getting it published. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and I just figured, like, there isn't a lot of videos that can guide younger doctors or younger students in the process of these things, so I want to kind of just talk it out. Hopefully you feel motivated and you want to try it yourself, to try to publish yourself. And yeah, so let's see, when did I start working on this? I started working on this paper. I had like an epiphany moment when I was working on another paper about inflammation in COVID, and I had a general idea of the drugs that are being repurposed in COVID-19, which were like anti-inflammatory drugs. So I was curious about one of them, and they're called JAK inhibitors. And I remember that at the time I was studying rheumatology for internal medicine, and I remember like the word JAK inhibitors kind of being thrown around. So I was like, okay, what are these weird drugs? Like, what do they do? And I read about them. I was like, okay, interesting. And then I looked up the use in COVID, like, has anyone used these drugs in COVID? And I found 2 or 3 papers that have suggested that it kind of works for some people. So I figured, you know what, there's a potential here for a paper to be written, a review about JAK inhibitors and COVID. So I went through with this, and it was basically around May. End of May, it was exactly like the 27th of Ramadan, okay? And I have like a problem where if I get like a creative idea or something, even when I do creative writing in general, like if I'm writing poetry or I'm thinking of doing something, it's like in the spur of the moment I have to do it, or else I'll forget. Like people who can space out their projects and succeed and keep the same momentum going, like that's a great skill. Like I don't have that, so it's like I need to sit down and regurgitate everything that's happening. So for 3 days I sat and almost got like no sleep. Honestly, I was going from like late night, and then I'd go to bed like an hour before Fajr, and then I wouldn't sleep after the prayer. I would stay up, and so basically like in 48 hours or 72 hours I wrote this manuscript, and I sent it out to 2 of my professors, and I wanted their opinion if they thought that it was something like, hey, do you think I could send this out? Do you feel like there's any potential? Look, there's like a lot of imposter syndrome, and it's honestly the stupidest thing ever. Looking back at it, it's like you have 0 confidence in yourself. But I'm glad like I reached out to my professors, my mentors, and I told them, and they said that there was like some good potential here. So I mustered up the courage to send out the paper the first time. So yes, I sent it out multiple times and I got to experience my first rejection as well. So I'm going to talk about that too. I had sent it out and there's a lot of things that you will learn. So the thing is like you have to like appreciate everything as a learning process, because there's a lot of things that you learn that you didn't know you needed to know. Like I was always like, the opportunities that I've had, the research opportunities that I've had, I didn't have like a full like I wasn't like corresponding author, I wasn't lead author, so I wasn't like, you know, at the front lines of the paper. So I never had the experience of submissions and sending out a paper and editing it and then getting it back and then sending it back and then all of the little things. It's useful to know how to maneuver around these things. Like these are skills that you gain at the end of the day that are valuable, so you should always like try to insert yourself in any opportunity that you can get so you can learn these things. So yeah, so I sent it the first time, and in retrospect I didn't know how to appreciate the little things, which are basically getting the editor convinced that there is potential in your work so that he sends it to reviewers. I didn't know that that was like a little blessing. So you needed to kind of like appreciate that, because for me at the time I was like panicking, like I was checking every second, like, oh my god, it's with reviewers, what are they thinking? And yeah, so I had to learn like slowly, like, okay, this is a good accomplishment. Like your first paper, you sent it out and that someone thinks that there's potential in it and they've sent it out to reviewers, and these reviewers are like experts in the field, they have like PhDs and they have multiple papers and publications themselves. So yes, you have to learn to appreciate the little things and know what is a good sign and what isn't, because at the time I didn't know, but now it's like if I send out a manuscript and it's with reviewers, it's like, yay, that's like something to celebrate. So I didn't know at the time that that's something to celebrate. I know it sounds like kind of dumb or something, but like you're kind of too panicky and stressed out, to be honest. Like I don't know if it's just like my imposter syndrome kicking in. I think it was mostly that. Like I felt like there was nothing, like I had two conflicting things, like one idea telling me like, yeah, there is some potential to your work, and the other one's like, oh no, these people who are like masters at their job are gonna think like you're who are you as a student to like think that you can submit a paper and stuff like that. Like I remember like reading about it, there was like this article that was posted about like, how do we think that students or young doctors or young interns can compete against tenured professors when it comes to publishing, and the answer is you can't. That was what they had said. Like anyone who, like, there's a lot of things that you learn in the process, but like a lot of it comes down to just believing in yourself and having like strong mentors that you can ask their opinion about how to do things and stuff like that. So the paper went to reviewers, and then I experienced my first rejection. So it came back from the reviewers, and here's the thing I also learned, like another small skill is like journal selection, because I didn't know how to do that. Like I knew a vague idea that my paper is a rheumatology paper because of the JAK inhibitors, which are used for rheumatology, rheumatological diseases. So I sent it vaguely to a rheumatology journal. I actually made the mistake of sending it to one journal and I had intended to send it to another one. So either way, like I had a vague idea of the type of journal I should send to, but there are other things that go into journal selection that I didn't know about. So I had to learn through experience how to pick a journal. So for me, like, it wasn't just like, okay, well, I meet the scope of what they're looking for. It had to be like, okay, how about their timing? Their timing has to be very important. How soon do they respond? How soon do they tell me, make a decision? So that was also very important. I had to learn that like the hard way, because the first journal I sent to basically takes it took 40 days for them to even get it to the editor. So I was like, oh my god, like now I know not to send something like that if it's a high yield paper. If it's a high yield manuscript that's something like fast paced like COVID, like I can't wait 40 days for you to get it to the editor or to the reviewers. Like I need something a bit more responsive, right? So I had to learn things like that. Like of course if you were working on something like very like not so high yield or something like that, you can probably afford to wait, or if you're the only person working on something like this. So no, but like everyone has their eyes on COVID-19 and trying to publish papers. So I learned the hard way that you have to be aware of stuff like that, because I was just so stressed during those days. Like I was just like, okay, is it with the editor? I feel like there was like this meme going on a research like a group where people were like laughing about like every time the journal, the people who manage the page see you log in to check the submission process, and they're like laughing at you. It's like I was doing that every second, so that wasn't helpful for my anxiety, having to wait for like that long to get a response. But like now I know, depending on like the type of research you have, if it's high yield, something that's like all eyes are on it, go to a quicker journal or something like that. So again, these are skills that you learn and you wouldn't know them otherwise. So yeah, so I got my first rejection, and that was gut-wrenching. Okay, like I was so bummed out, but at the same time I was working on another paper. I wasn't the lead author on it or anything, but I was corresponding author. So in a weird way, all of that paper had gotten like a lot of rejections before it got accepted, and in a weird way, like the rejections that paper had kind of buffered my own sadness and rejection for my paper. So I wasn't like bummed out in a way, because I still felt like it's too early to call quits on this manuscript just because someone didn't like it. So again, these are like skills that you have to build your confidence as a student or a young doctor or a young intern. Like you have to build your confidence again, like the article said, like how are you going to compete? So you have to try. So that's what I think, like just try and believe in yourself and have like a good supportive system. So I had that, and luckily one of my mentors had given me a really good idea, which was to also think about groups of people who are affected by COVID-19 and whether or not a dysregulation in their JAK pathway is involved in their pathogenesis and the pathologies that they have. So in our case, it turned out that there is a lot of evidence that suggests that JAK pathway is very dysregulated in people who are obese and diabetic. So that was like a, alarms went off, ding, 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 like this is really, really cool. So this is something that is definitely interesting. Obese and diabetic people are at high risk of poor outcomes in COVID-19. So it was a really good way of applying it to now, right? Because this is something like I really appreciate about one of my mentors. Like he takes the information that's there, and it's not just about putting it on paper, it's about how does it apply. So it's not, so you kind of elevated your work now, and now it's not just simply here's why you can use these drugs, which is what a lot of people were doing. A lot of people were sending out papers kind of similar, saying like here's why. Nobody had really collected it properly into a review, but nobody said like here's how or why, and like just really applied it, not just general science and here's why this drug works through whatever. But no, it's actually applicable. There's potential here for people who are at high risk for COVID infection. So that was like a really brilliant idea. So I wrote out those sections before sending it out, and I sent it out to this new journal, which was perfect for my manuscript because I learned more and more skills over on how to properly select, as well as a suggestion from one of my mentors to send here. And it was perfect because I had originally made the manuscript to discuss the drug in the same perspective that matched the scope of the journal itself. So I had discussed JAK inhibitors, why they are good from a cardiovascular perspective, why they're good from a diabetic perspective, and why they're good from a endocrine and from a obesity perspective. So yeah, so it met their scope like fully, I think, and it went to editors right away. And this was like the thing that I said from before, like you have to be really careful how you pick your journals, because this journal was just fantastic. They were like beautiful, man, like they just respond. And I think like that's just great. Okay, like you'll also find this information in a lot of journals if you're looking how fast they respond to certain things, like how fast they give you a decision, how fast till publication. You'll find all this information generally on journal websites. So I was just so happy I found a fast-paced journal. I met their scope and I sent it out to sent it out to the editor, and like 2 days they had sent it out to reviewers. And I was like, okay, good, now I know. So I knew from my last experience not to be too anxious or something, like to see it as a good sign that it went to reviewers. So it's like, okay, it went to reviewers, and then I slept on it a little bit. And then I finally got a response from them, and that was like my first challenge. So like my main point of making this video is to really just discuss this point, which is to discuss your ego when it comes to fixing up your work and making changes and things like that. So I didn't get approval right away. What I got was a request for revisions, okay? So here's the deal, like I think like in general, of course, like you don't have to follow any of the suggestions that are being made by a reviewer. In that case, you would submit a rebuttal and say why you think that that wouldn't work out for your manuscript. But like you have to accept the fact, like for me, and I think maybe that's the benefit of having a little bit of imposter syndrome or just being like young and dumb. Is that the right word? I don't know, but just like inexperienced is the word I'm looking for. I kind of like have to trust someone else's vision for my own visions, okay? So you have to like trust the fact that, okay, someone has just reviewed your paper, they probably have a PhD, they have submitted countless papers before, so they are very experienced, so you can trust them when they say, you know, in my opinion, you should probably do this and this with your manuscript. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes you hear people and they post about it on like Facebook and stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like they'll post like things saying, oh my god, I published after like 5 journals rejected me and the reviewer told me to change the manuscript from head to toe and I refused to do it, but finally like, you know what I mean? Like there's people who's you have to question whether or not it's their vision or it's their ego that's stopping them from getting a certain accomplishment. For me, I guess maybe because I'm inexperienced, I went with the fact that maybe I need to listen to someone who has expertise more than I do, and who agreed with me initially that there is some potential to my manuscript. So I figured, okay, it's not gonna hurt if I just take their suggestions. Again, like I said before, you don't ever have to do that. You can always just say no and send in your rebuttal, but for me it's like, am I saying no because I'm offended that somebody said to rewrite my whole manuscript, or to or is that just my ego, or like, or do they have a point? So I was just like, okay, maybe they have a point. So I went in and I changed a little bit of the manuscript, but I couldn't do everything that they had asked. So part of my response was a rebuttal, and part of my response was a rebuttal, and I met kind of halfway through, like met them halfway with what I wanted to write. Basically, that's it pretty much. Like, read the paper, share it with people if you like it, if you think it's interesting. Like, I learned a lot actually. Like, honestly, you have to push yourself sometimes to do things that are out of your comfort zone. Like, I learned how to like take other people's like drawings or figures instead of making my own. Like little things like that, like little skills that you gain, like getting a copyright permission to do that, knowing how to respond to reviewers, knowing how to do a rebuttal, knowing how to send out a paper yourself. So these are like small things that might seem like a waste of time to some or something like that, but I think they're eventually like they're really good skills that will help you in the long run. So yeah, so like that was just a really good experience. I wish, like, I guess like it's just this thing like in retrospect where you wish you could tell yourself in the past to kind of like take it easy and don't stress and stuff, but like it's finally over, it's done. I got a huge accomplishment, something I like always dreamed of doing, and it's finally done. So yeah, like I feel just so silly, like being very like a negative Nelly throughout the process. Like, oh, are they even gonna consider my paper? Are they gonna reject it right away? Like, I learned to like kind of appreciate like the little things, like the fact that I only have to send it out twice. Both times it went to reviewers, so there's some potential to your work, and it just feels good. So I waited a long time to make this video because I was waiting for it to be officially published and online, so I put the link in the description. Be sure to read it, and if you have any questions regarding research, I can make like a series of videos talking about how to do it, the different kinds of research there are, things like that. So leave a comment or follow me on Instagram and send me a message there, and I would be happy to answer your questions. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it wasn't too long, tedious, boring, whatever. Yeah, I was happy to share this moment with you guys. So good luck if you guys are studying for finals, and keep your head above the water, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.